request. Nathaniel last week requested me to contact KC2G Andrew Rodland and see if he had any maps from the eclipse last year. And the answer is yes, he does. And just a minute, and I'll share them. Boom, 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 boom. Get this out of the way. This is on October 14th. And this here is starting at 1400, and the eclipse really started around 1700. But if you watch, I mean, as we all know, the eclipse went down like this. And if you watch these lines, I have edited these slides. Let me see, 17, 16, 14, 15, 16. Something weird is starting to happen here at 16, 15. And I have overlapped this, edited this map with little dots that indicate where the eclipse was hitting. Notice this big bulge here. But the eclipse first kind of was apparent off of Oregon here. But we have this big thing on the 28 megahertz line. And then we just continue on and watch the eclipse come across the US, and the bulge kind of disappears. And that's it right there, just those five. But it's interesting that this kind of precedes where the shadow was hitting the ground.
And
so
it's kind of hard to see then, isn't it?
Hard to see what, I'm sorry.
Well, so I mean, we see that bulge.
Yeah.
Before the eclipse hits.
Well, before the eclipse hit the ground.
Before the eclipse hit the ground, yeah.
I'm thinking this the moon shadow passed through the ionosphere first.
Yeah.
And also these predictions are not not all that. These are fuzzy lines.
Right.
And the model is kind of fuzzy. But Andrew mentioned in his response to me that anytime anyone from HAMSI wants one of these, just speak up, because he's got them all on. He's got them all archived on the cloud.
That's fantastic.
Not only in SVG format, and I had to change them into JPEGs, but not only in SVG, but he's also got the HDF.H5 files and a bunch of other stuff that I didn't understand.
What is he using for input to the model? Is that GPS
exactly.
TFE data?
It's what he sent me was the data that is inputted, that he inputs through code, which I've looked at to generate the contours. That code is amazing. It's in Python, and there's some Perl, and there's some, there's even some COBOL and some Fortran.
But I think what he's using, the IRI and assimilating ionosonde data into it.
That's right. That's exactly
that he gets from Lowell. So he's working with Ivan Galkin.
Yeah, he gets ionosonde data from several sources. Then it's all in the acknowledgements on the page.
That's fairly sparse, so I'm interested how.
Yeah, he mentioned that
the contours.
He mentioned, let me just bring up his email here. That he's happy to work with HAMSI all the time. He says the eclipse might be just barely big enough to show on the maps. With luck, someday projects like yours will be able to provide me with many more data points than I get now, which is the whole point of Grape, right?
That's the intention.
So he can get more precise maps with more data points. So over to you, Rachel, back to net.
Yes. Back to ye old minutes. Does anyone have any other announcement type stuff before we get started on Grape 2?
W3USR should be on the air this evening, starting at 7 p.m. Eastern.
Where?
That is a good question. Maybe I might just send an email out to the Hamside listserv once we get a frequency. And then
Good.
And Nathaniel, send a text to me. Tonight is WADDU's open station. I'll be there.
Perfect. Yes, I can be in contact with you via text messaging or something like that as well to coordinate. I have a 2 p.m. meeting with IT today to try to get the logging software configured correctly. So please pray for me that works. Because IT presents certain challenges these days.
All right. Any other happy announcements? Okay. Grape 2 update. John, do you want to take it away?
That's a loaded question. Let's see, this week I did the testing of the 36 RF deck boards. I thought I had one radio that was on one board, was not working, but it turned out the header had misplugged and was not plugged in. So I've actually had a 100% yield on all boards. I did 20 DC point tests per board and 120 AC tests per board.
Oh.
So 142 tests per board, 100% yield on our 36 boards. So looking really good on that. So those are ready to rock and roll. Just was in communication with the board manufacturer. They're running behind my boards that were due today. Will probably not be ready till Monday. So I'll be picking that up on Monday. The hard drives, that saga has finally come to a good conclusion. I got the drives on Tuesday. So I have the 35 Western Digital purple 4 terabyte drives in the cases. You know, probably trying to set something up and probably harassing Gary Mickelton on formatting all those to the EXT format so we can have those ready to rock and roll. Have not heard back yet from the guy who's doing the 3D front panel. In fact, I should have emailed him this morning. I did not. So I have no idea where that is, but I'm hoping to get at least an STL file that I can print at least 3 or 4 front panels before I start shipping beta units. So I want to get the beta units out pretty quick here. And looking to set up probably a GitHub public repo for just the executables such that all of the Grape 2s update themselves every day. And right now, Bill and I are talking about possibly restarting the program at 0 UTC every day, at least initially, until we can have confidence that we can just let it run, which we'll hopefully know well before the April 8th date. But we don't have any time on it yet, so we don't have any idea if we have any memory leaks or any issues, but making good progress on that. Peak detection software is in place. We still have to beta test that, make sure it works the way we want it to work. Trying to think what else. Kung now has the G2 console, as we're calling it, allowing it to start the data controller collection process, or it can recognize that it's already been started and will log it and not block the output from the data controller, which is what we're using for doing diagnostic stream capture for Bill's testing of the threads running. So it works both ways, looking good on that. And last night I got the PSWS setup program to capture and extract the latitude, longitude, elevation, and it also gives a position, dilution of precision, and fix number for the user to ascertain as to whether or not the fix is good enough. I'm suggesting that the position, dilution of precision number should be less than 4 for you to accept the coordinates. I'm not going to make that mandatory, but I'm thinking when we get these in the field, that when we start the thing up, we're going to want it to run for at least an hour, so that the ephemeris data comes into the GPS and it gets a pretty good fix before you set the GPS location automatically. So, but that's in process and working. I think I still have to tweak just the format of the fields, because right now the latitude is coming through with like 200. No, that's not 200. It's about 15 decimal places. I want to cut it back to like 7 or 8. So it's the same for both fields, but that's just a bit of formatting, but it's capturing it and storing it in a file and working. So, and it can be thrown into the Maidenhead calculator and it gives the correct Maidenhead location. So that's working as well. Not thinking of anything else, which I'll probably remember as Bill takes it.
Excuse me. Yeah, we just been fixing fairly small bugs this week and changed the formatting of the RFDEC test file to CSV so that John could load it into an Excel spreadsheet and work with it from there to see the results, since there's so many for each deck. We changed the beacon IF to 1 kilohertz. It had been at 1600, and so John's been testing with that. I simplified the A to D timestamp and checksum search algorithm so that we can minimize the potential buffer overruns from the Pico, and we're testing that now for a long duration. With that change, we're down to potentially 2 to 7% CPU on 1 core. That's the farthest I've pushed it. So we've really got a lot of extra CPU capacity on the Pi now as a result of that, to do other things. I'm running Dave Witten's magnetometer at the same time, and that's taking about 8%. We could probably cut that down a bit too, but it's looking really good for CPU usage, allowing us to contemplate putting more stuff, on the Pi.
Have you considered using Pi 5s?
No,
I don't think there's any need to.
Okay.
that they're not readily available, and I think there's some significant differences, and I'd be hesitant because the software hasn't caught up with it yet.
Yep,
Yeah.
that's right.
And we're finding that the 64-bit version of both
Ubuntu.
Bullseye and the other one are not up to prime time yet.
Yes, that's correct.
So I can read the entire 1 second's worth of data from the Pico in 170 milliseconds,
Great.
and then write it to disk in 20 more milliseconds. So everything takes place in 200 milliseconds per second.
Nice.
So that's looking good.
So you could do 5 of them.
Well, it's writing it to the operating system and it's buffering it to the disk. So the disk actually writes about once every 5 seconds. So, but if you watch it,
Yeah, that does flush the disk. So that doesn't mean it's necessarily out there, but it's flushed its user mode disk cache at that point. So anyway, it is looking good.
I'm sorry, go ahead, Bill.
A question.
Yeah.
Why did you change the IF from 16 down to 1,000?
I did that because the signal level dropped by It was 1/3 of what it should have been.
Okay.
And it's really due not to the RF decks. It's the front end filter, the resonant filters, I think is what's causing the problem. The audio filter is not the issue. But I had
Okay.
the signal levels drop down to something that I was scared to use. So I put it back. I acknowledged that at 1200 hertz from WWVH, we're going to get a wrap, but that's on the low end of it we're not looking at. So I'm actually testing for that on one of my RF tests. So,
Okay.
but I wanted to keep the IF frequency a even multiple of the sample rate because it makes the zero crossing a lot more accurate. If we put it to something that isn't, because 1600 was 5 times, 1000 is 8 times. If I put it to a non-integer multiple, the zero crossing gets really ugly.
What do you mean the zero crossing gets really ugly?
I think the way David is doing the frequency determination, he's counting zero crossings and then interpolating and then counting and measuring them. And if it's not exactly on a multiple, you always have a non-integer remainder, and that's enough to show up in the millihertz and actually in tens of millihertz. It doesn't look really good. So we're taking advantage of a quirk of sampling to get a better accuracy. We still haven't determined what it does in the presence of noise. So we may still have problems, because I think the original intent was to do what FL Digi did, but I'm really not sure what David ended up doing. I think it was the zero crossing, and I'm not sure FL Digi does zero crossing. He's the one who looked at the code on that. I don't know. But
Why
we'll see
does
how it works.
I don't understand why this matters. I mean, if you're capturing the full bandwidth using IQ,
We're not doing IQ, we're just doing one stream.
Okay, well still, so if you're capturing the full bandwidth and you have everything underneath within the Nyquist rate, and you're capturing all that bandwidth, why is it so important that you get this zero crossing exactly right?
Well,
Isn't
that's
it
the
more
frequency. It's the frequency estimator is what that is for. For the whole experiment of sampling the data and saving the raw data, it makes no difference.
I guess another way for me to ask a question, are we sacrificing the 1200 hertz tone at the expense of getting this particular frequency estimation algorithm to work?
No, because you still have the upper sideband 1200 hertz. It's the lower one that I'm worried about.
Okay.
That's the one that wraps. And if you put it at 500, everything really wraps back way too far.
But so now you say it wraps, but do we have that filtered out at some point?
Well, the lower filter is knocking that down. It does not eliminate it.
Okay.
So it will show it in the sine wave that's being saved, but that information is not being lost or filtered or anything for the raw data. This is just for the frequency estimator. It does not affect the raw data storage.
But it does.
But the wrap does.
But once the wrap does, and then we end up having aliasing that goes into the upper.
Well, it's actually operating the exact same way Grape 1 is running right now.
Right. So we already have that problem.
Right. Now, for me to change that would require probably moving some of the front end LC filter tank circuits, and that ship sailed like 2 months ago. So.
Right. Yeah.
That's why I wanted to have this all done by August of last year, and just didn't happen.
Right.
I have problems believing that LC filter is affecting the signal bandwidth.
It's the gain of the filter in
That's a
conjunction
pretty
with,
wide filter.
right? But if you look at where it shows up and you do the sweep, you see where the filter is at. It's not perfect. And with the 1% parts, it's, the 1% squared in the square root of LC calculation. So it moves more than you'd want it to. I mean, it doesn't move, but it's where it ends up is what the issue is.
I worry, John, the way you make your comments, I worry that you are sacrificing, taking care of the aliasing problems properly, or capturing the necessary signals we need to disambiguate the system. I worry that you're sacrificing that in an effort to ensure that the single frequency algorithm that one particular single frequency estimation algorithm is working correctly.
What you're not understanding is the signal has two 1200 hertz tones, one above the carrier and one below the carrier. The one above the carrier is perfectly replicated.
Yes,
it's the one below
that.
the carrier that 1200 is wrapping back to 200, and that's filtered. Again, it's the same way that Grape 1 is running right now.
Okay, so yes, I do understand there's the upper sideband one. So you're saying, but you're telling me two different things. You're saying that the lower one it's wrapped back around to 200. Where's it getting wrapped around to?
To 200
hertz.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And we're looking for 500, 600, and 1200. All of those come through perfectly clean.
So what we need to make sure we know, then we need to really make sure that when we look at that raw data, we know to ignore things at 200 hertz.
And the audio filter knocks that down significantly because it starts at 300 hertz, 400 hertz.
Okay.
So like I say, I've tried to mitigate it as best I can, but it's not perfect.
All right. So then what we do, all right. So that's 200 hertz above zero. And then the carrier itself is going to be at 1000 hertz, right?
Correct.
Okay. And then if we look at the upper sideband, then we care about things at 1500 hertz, 1600 hertz, 2000 hertz,
and 2200. And those all come through clean.
Okay. Okay.
There's no problem with that. It's just the one lower sideband has a little bit of a wrap on WWVH.
Okay.
And for the signal gain, since we do not have the nonlinear compression of the audio card that the Grape 1 has,
right,
it's a linear progression. The gain is a little bit more critical to get it up there and keep it up there.
Okay.
In fact, I am going to show at HamSci what the audio gain input versus output function of that Sabrent card is, and why you really don't. If you're worried about amplitude, you do not want to use that. If you want frequency, you do want to use that. So it depends on what you're after.
Right.
I'm trying to get the best of both worlds and mitigate the issues and walk the razor edge of trying to keep everybody happy.
Right. Right. Okay. Yes. That sounds good.
It's all about measurement science.
Oh yeah, no, I understand. Have you been able to produce any more test Dopplergrams with this new data collection yet?
Test Dopplergrams.
Like Kung
for what Kung was doing? No, Kung has been working on the GPS engine right now. I don't know if he's done anything else behind the scenes on that. That was not on my plate, so.
I don't think so. I asked him about it yesterday. So
yeah, we're trying to get to the point of being functional so we can deploy like now. So
no, I understand. I understand that, but part of being functional is making sure we look at those final Doppler plots and make sure that they look right. Because if they don't look right, then we're not ready. So I view that as a critical path in deployment. And it's also the one data product that I can really look at and have some sort of understanding of what's actually coming out of the system. So I think what I'd ask is Kung, maybe for next week, if you could make sure that you produce some new Dopplergrams using the new collection method that we can take a look at and see what the output, that final output looks like.
Now, Kung, in the email I sent out this morning or last night, be sure you shut off the test source, because right now I have the PSWS setup program is turning on all diagnostic modes for the Pico and the Teensy. And the Pico and the Raspberry Pi. And it's also turning on the RF test source as an antenna source for 5 megahertz. And we're actually measuring 5 and then the third harmonic of 15. So if you're actually measuring live signal, please be sure to type in an F400, which shuts that source off. Otherwise, you're going to have problems. It'll definitely screw up all the measurements.
Okay.
I don't want to have false headaches.
Okay. John, you are collecting data at the moment, right?
I'm collecting from the RF test data, yes.
Would you be able to collect the full day of data and send that to me? Because that way I will be able to continue working on the GPS and work and process that data into a spectrogram.
Oh.
If I wanted, so.
Now, that would not be live data, it'd be the test data, but I could certainly do that. Yeah, right now I'm running the RF test for Bill's reliability on the buffering issue.
I can do live data for you, Kung.
Okay, that'd be great. Yeah, because that's the only thing that I can do if I'm working on the GPS.
Okay.
Are you able to, what does the Dopplergram of the test data look like?
I haven't tried it yet, but I can provide that tonight to Kung and let him try it.
Yeah, that would be great if we could have both, see what both the Dopplergrams of the live data and the test data looks like.
Okay.
Thank you.
Awesome.
John, did you see my comment about the GPS locking?
No.
That commercial GPS DOs will generally do a finite number of fixes, like 1,000 fixes, and then go into position hold mode.
Mm-hmm.
So I think what you're saying is you don't want to send out data until you go into position hold mode, right?
Right. We would have to program the U-blocks to do that. And I'm pretty sure it's capable of that, but we have not crossed that bridge yet. It's in the to-do queue.
Right. But you could
I understand what you're saying. If we had it go into lock mode and then acquire it, because then it won't change.
Right.
Then it's just doing an evaluation. It's doing an evaluation if the signals are within its parameters to be able to use it for the fix.
Yeah, you can either do it by dilution of precision, as you say, or just they generally do a finite number of fixes.
Yeah. Because on the old Motorola Encores, you had a timing one that it did a 10,000 sample.
Exactly.
Set, created its fixed point, and then evaluated satellites. But that 10,000 point took a couple hours.
Right. Yeah, the Thunderbolts do that. The
Yeah.
UCCMs that I use a lot of do that.
Yeah, actually 10,000 points would be a little over 3 hours, about 3 hours.
Yep.
Yeah. So that's one of the things we have to understand and set as a procedure for when we install these things, is to do if we do set that up, and it depends on time. And we can always change that in the future too. And it's just right now, my focus is to get these things finished and in the field as soon as possible.
Yeah, even 1,000 points probably would get you to within what you're looking for. Because you're just trying to get the extended
satellite constellation changes enough that depending on when you hit it, it's either really good or the 3 hour window is like, no, we're going to do this over. So,
right. It also depends on if it's got previous knowledge. But if you're starting from a cold start,
Yeah,
it can take a while.
yep.
Yeah.
With the new installations, you sort of have to assume it's a cold start.
Correct.
Yeah, John, there's one more comment where you saw Dave, W0DAS, has offered to print some of the front panels if that would be helpful to you.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah, send me the file, John. What plastic are you using?
That has yet to be determined. I haven't talked with him yet about it.
Well, as
I've
soon as you
actually
figure out
got-
the plastic and what color you want, let me know and I can print some.
Yeah, I actually have access to what's called a belt printer,
Oh,
whereas you feed it a file and it prints it, kicks it off, and keeps going. So
well, if you need help.
if
just
I
let me
need
know.
help, I
If you
will
don't,
reach out.
Yeah, thank you.
I appreciate the offer.
Okay.
And
Any
the
other-
first boxes that go out will be in a red case. Because they're the betas. Simply because I got a couple of red ones in the lot that I bought, and I figure I might as well use them for something that makes sense. So the red ones will be betas.
All right. Does anyone have any other questions, comments, or concerns about the Grape 2 deployment?
Pung, do you have anything?
Yeah, just a little addition. So yeah, like John mentioned, I finished the T2 console. So most of the absolutely necessary features are so in there now. Other additions will have to be added, like after deployment, I believe. And then I wrote a script to acquire the GPS data, which John have integrated into the PSWS setup program. And now I'm working on some more code to be able to configure the uBlocks GPS now. And then, yeah, now with generating the spectrogram, as Dr. Fazell mentioned.
Now, uBlocks is UBLOX.
Have I been spelling it wrong this whole time?
Didn't notice, I just noticed it now.
Yeah, I've been spelling it wrong this entire time, like maybe 6 months.
Shows how much I'm paying attention here. I'm in trouble.
When I lack in spelling, I make up for in math. Don't worry, I hope.
I'm good with that.
This is Ken, AI7LF. Have you, I have a Grape 1 running in the Pacific Northwest. I can run one of your beta tests, or have you decided where all those are going? And then also the deployment.
That is actually a Gary question. I will be working with my lights. I will be working with him on the initial, excuse me, beta testing sites. I know I'm probably going to be sending one to Scranton. Bill is going to get one. I will be running one. Of course, the one that goes to Scranton, Bill or Kung and or Nathaniel will be running. It's a TBD, but thank you for the offer, and we'll keep that in mind.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, one option is to go to the Hamsci website, the Grape page. There's a Google form. If you put your name and call in there and that kind of stuff, that'll help us keep things organized.
All right, will do.
Thank you.
All right. Any other
Back to
questions
net.
Any other-
Beat ya.
or comments on the Grape?
Comments or snide remarks?
Hmm?
Comments or snide remarks? I'm open to either.
For every action, there is an equal and opposite criticism.
Correct.
Yeah.
If you don't get it, there's something wrong.
Okay. In terms of what we still have running, outside of the Grape 2 deployment. I have yet to look at any seedless or wild grape data yet around this. Does anyone have anything to add on the grape amplitude drop-off issues besides what Gary said a little earlier?
Oh, I thought we explained that.
Yeah, I haven't looked at the.
Oh, it makes perfect
I
sense
looked
for what he, what
I
he,
don't know if
it was George, I thought, found that.
George.
Yeah, he did a phenomenal job of explaining what was going on. It makes perfect sense.
Right. I just need to check I'll take it off. Check the
Yeah, you want to re-look at that one because it correlates perfectly with the dropouts. It's like, yeah, that's what it is.
It's
Yeah.
the ionosphere changing refraction.
Yep. It's real science.
As
Yeah,
long
how
as
about that?
it's,
grape data, I want to check it.
it's the MUF.
Yep.
And that's the
Yeah,
thing that I'm
but
hoping to see
but what
turned into
is
a
the-
published paper, or at least included in as part of a publication.
Oh, yeah. I want to know
The
what
next
is the MUF and why? And if you could, Nathaniel, if you could forward to me that ray tracing simulation, or at least the presentation that has it in it, I'd like to study that.
George,
Which
I've got a program that'll do that.
Good, thank you.
which one did you want, George?
Oh, there's, I don't know. You showed it last week. It shows, it shows it shows a station transmitting and the ionosphere refracting or not, depending on the angle of the incidence and so on.
Okay,
That's like the one that Christina was using.
Yeah, maybe.
I think
Not critical, I just like to play with it. And Bob, thank you.
well, I just have a movie for that right now. Actually producing those is a little more time intensive.
I understand. Just let me look at the movie.
Okay. Yeah,
And-
I'll put a PowerPoint link in the chat, and
Thank
the
you.
movie is included in the PowerPoint link.
Thank you. And Bob, I'll take you up on that offer.
Okay. For the initial press release, I feel like this was probably done already, but I'll ask anyway. Or did we never get around to this?
There have been a number of press releases.
Yeah, so I think
I think that one
that's old then.
should be, yeah, that's old.
This I need to work on. I am now done with qualifiers, so hopefully.
Hooray!
Yay! Are you like done, or do you have to do any more?
I'm allowed to take them separately now though, so that's its own mercy.
Okay.
But yeah.
So if you jump the hurdle, you still have to jump the hurdle.
I stopped to jump the hurdle.
Oh, okay.
Rather, I got decent feedback.
Thank you, Nathaniel.
You got that?
I do.
Great.
Okay. Any updates on the maintenance project? So either of the websites or Grape 1 updates. It's okay if we don't. I'll just continue moving down the list to open business.
Well, is Bill Engelke here?
Yeah.
Oh, so
Yeah.
Has the token issue been resolved, Bill?
What token issue are we talking about?
The one where I created two stations and they both have the same token?
No, it hasn't. Can you tell me which two stations they are, please? Refresh my memory.
Okay. It's the last two that.
yeah, it's station 1 and station 2 at my place.
No, they're way up there. 10. Let's see. 103 and 104.
I'll look at that today.
Okay.
Hmm.
Okay. On to open business. So there wasn't a name left with this, but I guess I think
Kung is working on that now.
but someone added something to the minutes. And that's great. Does anyone have anything else that they'd like to talk about?
Yeah, just a query on the magnetometer part of the project.
Right.
Um,
I'm sorry.
Oh, maybe you didn't get there yet. My mistake. If that's
No,
coming up, I'll.
Over it because I wasn't sure if it was something we did last week because it was in.
Yeah, so I, occasionally get inquiries through the general HAMSI email and stuff, people asking about the magnetometer project. And I know we've got the 2 boards for sale, the 2 boards set for sale up in the Tapper site. Is the Grape 2 magnetometer going to be, is that imminent? Is that before the eclipse? Is that over the summer? I don't know where we're at time-wise with that.
I can give an update on that. I am going to have in my hot little hands 20 remote magnetometers specifically for Grape 2 deployment. I know Nathaniel said we weren't going to make this a standard issue, and it makes good sense because not everybody can install them because the installation is not trivial. You have to bury them 3 feet in the ground in a pipe and run
And the
cable
ground
to
is
it.
frozen.
Well, it used to be frozen, but in Cleveland, that's not the case anymore. But anyway, I digress. But yeah, so basically, if they inquire about it or are interested in it, we will provide the board, but they're going to have to provide the pipe and the cabling and the manpower to put it in.
Yeah, I
And it really
understand.
needs to.
Yeah.
So we will have the option of supporting that if they want it. And I would think by August or by April, they should be able to drill a hole in the ground. But
Well, these guys were in Anchorage, Alaska, so who knows?
Oh.
But anyhow.
They don't have ground up there.
The permafrost. Okay.
Yeah.
That's good. That just tells me
Yeah,
enough
you don't
to,
dig it either.
Yeah, you have to have a buoy with it.
You have to have a permit to dig it.
at least I know it's imminent. That helps. Thanks, John.
Yeah. So I've been working with Dave Witten, and he's sending me 20 built boards, and I've got, I think I got already the other 10 magnetometer boards. Now I'll have 20 systems ready, the boards and the RM3100s ready to rock and roll. But that is going to be a standard issue with the data controllers for Grape 2. We'll be able to read the magnetometer and store it in a file and do the uploads.
Okay, so what I may do is change the Grape hosting interest form to add, are you interested in the magnetometer, just so we can start tracking that stuff too.
We should probably put some verbiage in there what it takes to do it, because if they just say, oh yeah, I want a magnetometer, there's a lot going on behind the scenes that they have to know about.
Right, yeah, at least that's all on the HAMSI website. I can refer them to that first.
Okay. It's not like you just get it and take it outside and plop it on the ground and run a cable to it. It's a little more involved. And if you don't have a drill, it's a lot more involved.
Okay, that's great.
Hey, Rachel, I wanted to run a couple of my recent observations by people and get some recommendations.
Go right ahead.
So I moved the Grape FL Digi I have for doing the ground wave and also the DRF system to 4 miles east of WWV. And so the locations are in transition right now, and I haven't settled on anything. But let me share my screen real quick. There we go. So if I look at, this is the day before I moved the DRF up there, and here in town, this is about 8 miles away. I do get some appearance of some Doppler shifting, I think from WWVH, and we've seen this the whole time it's been here. And then I moved it up to the location that I'm at now. And so what was kind of interesting, I thought, was that this is what I get up there now. And
Oh,
I'm
wow.
not getting, I mean, the signals are through the roof. This is with 20 dB attenuation.
No,
And the
Jeez.
signal's through the roof. And I don't have any WWVH showing up at all. I'm just overloading the whole thing. So if I keep adding attenuation, I might attenuate the WWVH signal right out of the whole picture as well. So I'm thinking about moving this farther away than 4 miles. I'm thinking moving it back closer to Fort Collins. And so I don't know if people would concur on that. It's a huge signal. The FLDigi signal is even stronger. So
I like this one
anyhow.
better than the previous one because you don't get the
Well,
interference
why?
from WWVH.
Well,
I mean,
but I think actually it's a really good, I think it's a good observation to have the WWVH. I don't consider that interference from WWVH.
Well,
Right, whoops, let me go
for
to
a
a
reference standard for WWV, which is what this is intended to be, I don't agree with that because you want just the WWV signal.
depends on what you're looking for.
Yeah. And being this is a
Well,
reference station.
I think the fact that, okay, so it's a reference station. So is it bad to actually have this other data in here coming in, showing up a little bit up and down? There's, you know, there's something else going on here that I can pick up, but if I get too close, it's overwhelmed.
Well, if you're looking for what WWV is doing, then WWVH just seems like noise on the signal.
Right. So the way you move the
So there's,
tooth
you
from,
know,
I
so
like
leave it where it
better.
is.
Yeah, I think we already have it. Leave it where it is and throw some more attenuation and try to get the saturation down.
Yeah, if you look at the FLDigi, it's definitely clipping the signal, you know, when you're
Yeah.
looking at it. So
Yeah.
all right. Well, I'll leave it there. It's working.
Smaller antennas always work.
I do have a quarter wave vertical antenna, so it's resonating very well. So all
Try
right.
one like this.
You might just try a piece of wire just to knock your signal down rather than attenuating it, but 6 of one, half dozen of the
Well,
other.
yeah, I'm using the antenna is being shared between the FLDigi, the DRF, and also it's driving Rob Robinette's RX888. So I'm splitting the signal. I'm not going to move the antenna. He's got very good results there. And John, you should have seen an email from me to him, or I got CC'd on it, trying to figure out how we're assigning, you know, the node. I don't know if it's a DRF node or FLDigi node or exactly how.
I saw
that's
that.
working.
So you're actually using a splitter to run the 3 antennas?
Yeah, I'm just taking a signal and splitting it, T-splitting it out, one over
So
to the Grape.
are they all the antenna signals in parallel then, or is there actually through a splitter system?
It's through a splitter.
Okay,
It's
good.
I'm just splitting the same thing. So I don't really want to change the antenna.
No, that's appropriate. I'm just getting at, you don't want to have the Grape 1 input tied directly to the input of another receiver because it's going to knock it down. It's unbuffered and the resonant filter is appearing at the terminals of the antenna. That's why it's a cheap radio. It wants its own antenna, but if you have the splitter there, it's not an issue.
Okay, we'll see. Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Does anybody else have anything else that they'd want to talk about?
I've had enough for 1 week.
Okay.
Who was going to be at the Hamvention?
There'll be two of us there, Bob, myself and Ed, WX2R.
And I will be, and some others from Case.
Ah, great.
You mean
No.
Hamvention or Hamcation?
I'm talking about Hamvention in Orlando, February.
That's
Yeah, that's
Hamcation. We'll be at Hamvention.
Okay, back up. We're talking about February 9th, 10th, and 11th, Hamcation in Orlando, right?
Yes, I am.
Yeah. Yeah, so so far it's you, me, and Ed, WX2R. We know we're coming from Hamside.
Okay. Well, the tickets are, the flights are booked. We got a place to put our heads down. I'll be down with K1KG and myself. And maybe a third guy. So,
Excellent.
so we'll be able to help you, at least spell you at the counter or something on Saturday. We'll probably only be there Saturday.
Okay, that's good to know, Bob. Thank you.
I just look forward to meeting you though.
Likewise.
Okay. Shall we adjourn 5 minutes early?
Is this possible?
That would be great.
Just
All
check
right.
your chat, John. Notice I'm going to be out of town that week, so if you want some help next week, or then it's going to have to wait 2 or 3.
Okay,
Okay. I'll see you all
next
next.
week. Yeah, okay. I'll be in touch, Gary.
Take care, all.
73.
7 3s.
73, everyone.
73, everybody.